Y'all have heard my theory on the dichotomy of purpose, right? Women pretending their purpose is work when their purpose is actually family, and men pretending and not men actually not having a purpose until women give them families. This is why most men with families live longer, do well, have more money, because when you give a man something to care for, to strive, like, you have to think of how crazy it is for a man to dedicate all of his earnings to everybody else before him. That
Okay.
that is the true meaning of purpose.
Okay.
Like
So
literally, we are so nobody is as selfless as a man that does that, right? But
okay.
he has a reason to do it. So you give him a reason, he will do it. On that journey, he will find his purpose because he's always searching for a better way to provide. So why you see all these lifeless ass niggas that are zombies walking around here just trying to get in women's pants, it's because nothing is required of them, because nothing has been given to them of value.
That's
I'm
true.
just
Okay. So my question to all y'all was this. It's a two-part question. So at 21, if you have everything you need, money, a home, everything you need as a woman, are you ready to get married?
I think women are ready to get married at 18. If they got Prince Charming, they're ready to get married. Y'all don't understand how women listen. When I was a teenager, listen to this real fast. When I was a teenager, I used to write my bridesmaid list out. Like, I knew who my bridesmaids were gonna be, whatever, it was a whole thing. Like,
Okay.
women want to get married.
Now watch this. Trigger Mike and AP. At 21, if you had all the money you needed, a home, you was set up. Are you ready to get married at 21 with everything you want?
you
Married?
know what? It's not about
That's-
ready.
You hear all of it? You know what? Married?
I was
Y'all
about to
may
say,
not
no.
answer it
It's
right.
not about ready because nobody's actually ready. I think many
They
men
just
are
said
so
they was
romantic.
over it.
Obviously, men are.
Many men are actually so romantic at that age that
This
they
is my
would get
point.
married. They would.
So when were you like, you know what? I'm ready to get married. This is the time for me as a man.
When I was ready to have a kid,
Yep.
What age was that?
about 24.
That's pretty young.
26.
What about you, Trigger Mike?
I'll say the time just 26. Separated. Yeah, I stayed in my slower phase a little too long.
So for me, it was 28 or 30. I was hoping y'all was gonna say a little older, but I don't know. I feel like if you give
I
a
mean,
man
but this
everything
group
he-
is
Because
like,
Stayed in
I
your
wanted
slower
to be.
phase a
Oh,
little
go ahead.
longer than I did. That's all.
No, see, I did not want to have a kid when I didn't want to still be raising a kid when I turned 55. I did not want that.
you
I
didn't want to
wanted
be the
every
grandpa dad.
no. Well, so I knew about at the age of 30 how I wanted to retire, how I wanted things to look, and I didn't really want the American dream the way that it was sold. So like it wouldn't have worked out. I got lucky that it wouldn't have worked out had I had kids later, because you're
So
still raising kids. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I wanted all of that to be done so I could do what I wanted to do.
AP, my point in that is this: if you get at like they use that example on Fresh and Fit and throughout the manosphere, right? If you give a man access to all the things that he never had access to previously, it's going to be a point in time when he splurged and he is trying to indulge in all that can be indulged in, right? A lot of men, if you give them everything they want and have the ability to indulge at 21, they're not jumping to get married, and because of that, it doesn't happen until you've indulged it. I didn't feel like I was ready to have a family until I could stay in the house. Until I could say, you know what, I don't have to go hang out with my homies tonight. I don't got to go on the boat. Oh, y'all got girls over there? They doing what? No, I'm good. I'm gonna stay in the house. Until I could do that, I didn't think I was ready to start no family. Now,
I couldn't. There's no way I could have made the money that I needed to make. To be completely truthful with you, I couldn't have had everything at 21 because I didn't really start to drive go hard that direction until I had kids.
So I'm gonna throw a huge monkey wrench in your statement, Marcus. I think a lot of girls at that age think they're ready for marriage, but what they're really ready for is the wedding.
The wedding.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right. I don't think that most women at that age, even if everything is set up, right, it's still so focused around the celebration of marriage and not actually being a wife. I think, especially in the era that we live in, even older women aren't necessarily ready to be a wife. right? That it's not ingrained the way it should be, right? So how can we really blame the men for having that mentality when the women themselves are masking it with wanting this lavish wedding, or like the lifestyle that comes of being married and not necessarily the marriage itself?
Well, I honestly think that goes both ways. I don't think men are taught how to be husbands. Women aren't taught how to be wives. And I do think that that's part of the problem. But some of that learning is just like, as a woman, you may think you know what it is like to be a mother in your mind because you have a mother and you've seen her, but you don't really know what it's like until you actually become a mother. And I kind of think that that's a little what marriage is, as well. Like, you have an idea in your mind of what marriage is going to be, what it is, and then you get married and realize, like, well, damn, it's nothing like what I thought it was going to be. Just like motherhood, because your mother made it look easy, she took care of you and things like that, so you think it's a natural thing. We're not given a lot of the tools as, women and men, to understand what marriage truly is. Marriage is a whole lot of work. And I think a lot of times as married people, we fail to explain it. Or if we do explain it, we make it not seem like it's worth it, right? Because you're like, oh, marriage is a lot of hard work. You have to do this, you have to do it. So it becomes like, is this task of responsibility. And when you're young, you don't want that kind of responsibility if it's kind of laid out like that. And so it's really difficult to try to explain the concept of that to young people. So, and especially as women, especially if we have this idea of, like what you were saying, Inaz, the wedding part. Like, we just want to get to the wedding. We know what color our wedding, dress, what our bridesmaid dresses are going to be. We know what kind of style our wedding dress. We want, so we're planning for all of those things, the superficial aspects, the celebration of it. But nobody is kind of pulling us in and being like, okay, well, this is what you need to be doing for your husband. Exactly. This is what, you need to be doing as a mom. Or these are things that's going to be happening that comes along with marriage. This is how you probably need to navigate that. We're not getting that part.
So
you say that. Can I ask her a quick question before you go, TM? Because I'm curious, what do you think a husband is mistaken? Because at a young age, we're taught to provide, we're taught to protect, and we are taught to be selfless. These are things we're taught from like little bitty. We're taught sacrifice as a young boy. We're taught sacrifice at a very young age, and that to me is exactly what a husband is. So I'm curious, what are we not taught that? What is a husband supposed to look like to a woman? I'm curious.
That was also my question.
Now, I'm only speaking from my perspective. I don't know if it's everybody else's, but the reason I say I beg to differ based on my experience, I think I was probably taught in my household how to be a wife because of the responsibilities that were put on me as a child growing up, as a female child. So it was 4 of us kids, 3 of us were girls, and I had a younger brother. In that household, we did have my mom and my dad, but the expectation of responsibility in terms of the household was only on us girls. We were responsible for all of the cooking. We were responsible for the laundry. We were responsible for cleaning the house. We were responsible for taking care of each other, even our younger brother. Whereas with my younger brother, he was the one that was being catered to and taken care of. He didn't really have responsibilities in the house. And so that's why I think that's the difference, is because a lot of times, like I said, from what I've experienced, a lot of boys are not necessarily given a lot of responsibilities. The mom, cater to them. You know, the sisters or siblings have to take care of it. So in my experience, I would say
So-
I was trained more so to be a wife, more so than my brother was trained to be a husband.
So I got a lot to say to that. So this is when I tell you, it is very clear to me why my dad raised us the way he did. Because my sister would say, I'm sorry, not even just my sister. And my family, as you know, my dad is like the fourth in line. And there was a time where we all lived together with, it's only him and his eldest sister, the only blood family I have here in America. Those are the only ones. And my eldest cousin, who's like almost 50 now, once said to her younger brother, who's like 2 years younger, he don't ever have to do, they from New York, so she got that. He don't ever got to do blank, blank, and blank, blank. And my dad, not even her dad or my mom, that like went to her face and was like, you don't worry about what he has to do. Everything he has to do in this life, he's already being taught. I did not know what that meant, right? Because she's looking like, I got to make beds, I got to wash dishes, I got to do all this stuff. What I look at that now, my cousin, who she was referring to, is now a chief in the Navy. He has his own IT business and is not even out of the Navy yet, right? Functioning. He is responsible for paying for his parents' care. Not one woman in the family offered money or not. Because he's the eldest son. Sons assume men assume ultimate responsibility for everything, which is why their mothers are actually catering to them, because they actually want to live with their sons when they get old and their husbands die. If we really want to be real, that's why they're doing it. So, because I got two sisters. My mom damn sure don't want to live with them. And what I should say is that I told y'all being a good husband is a lot like being a good man. You've learned it from when you were young. Love the woman, do not abuse her, care, tend to their needs, her and the children, right? That's why women have to learn service in a different way.
Well, I can't say that my brother grew up to be a good husband.
Yeah, so because you misconstrued what I said last week when I said it's harder to be a woman or a wife than a husband. It's not harder to be, it's harder to learn. Like, you literally have a rigorous, duty-filled, task by task type of thing, and it doesn't look the same necessarily for a man. But somehow, ultimately, we end up with all the weight on our shoulders for the family's sake. Because during like Corona, like you look at those type of like the Rona, you see like women in the house, none of their jobs are really necessary, but the men are out making the economy work.